Muslims believe in Allah, and their Jewish brothers and sisters, they believe in Yahweh. But we all come from the same Abrahamic faith. We're all literally spiritual cousins. Where is this hatred coming from? Welcome to the Father Leo Show, where I'm dishing out faith, culture, and commentary. And we're going to have a pretty difficult discussion on what's happening in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine. And it's almost like I have to make some distinctions. This is not about politics, although some of it is going to have to be brought up. And it's certainly not about religion between Muslims and Jews, because Christians are also in the Middle East as well. This is about looking at facts through the lens of faith, and hopefully offering a perspective, not as a political analyst, but as a priest who's trying to help people to kind of maneuver through all of the information as well as disinformation and all-out lies versus the propaganda. And what are we supposed to do with it? Because the violence is getting closer and closer to us. It's in our faces. It's also in our streets. It's certainly in our streets. But what are we supposed to do with this? Well, I think what it requires is us to look very honestly and humbly about what's been happening in the past few days. First, it's shocking to me that Israel, with all of its defense forces and incredible intelligence for security, that they didn't know that something like this was going to happen. You know, the news has been pretty straightforward that other countries, including Egypt, are telling them that there's a lot of chatter out there. Hamas is acting up. You might want to prepare. But it seems like they were caught off guard, and they're usually 10 steps ahead. But in this case, this is one of the greatest massacres on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. But, you know, there does seem to be a real anti-Israeli sentiment in the Middle East, which is predominantly, it's the majority Muslim. It's just Israel is the only non-Muslim country in all of the Middle East. And I know that the Palestinians, who are Muslims, see themselves as unique Muslims in that they really are oppressed, according to them, by the Israelis. And so they feel like they can retaliate because they're victims. But I'm sorry. Just because you feel like you are a victim doesn't give you any right to do what has been done in the past few days. No one can justify the actions of what Hamas has done. And the Palestinians elected Hamas as their leaders in 2006. But they're a terrorist organization that vows to destroy Israel off the face of the earth and to destroy America as well. And even if they feel oppressed by Israel's military force because of the border between those two countries, it might be because Hamas indiscriminately sends missiles over without any warning. At least I can say the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, send warning to the people to take shelter. And while no one has a right to send missiles and bombs over the other, it seems that it does come one way more than the other. And no one can justify the vicious actions of cutting off babies' heads in front of their parents, using civilians, innocent civilians, as human shield, raping women, recording it on camera, and putting it on internet and calling the daughter's parents just to brag about the violation. This is not even humane, and there should be no excuse for it. And I know that people are saying, gosh, you're really starting to sound pro-Israeli. I'm looking at the facts of the day through the lens of faith. And if anyone believes in God, and they do, Muslims believe in Allah, and their Jewish brothers and sisters, they believe in Yahweh. But we all come from the same Abrahamic faith. We're all literally spiritual cousins. Where is this hatred coming from? I firmly believe it's coming from the devil, who makes us take Jesus' teaching of loving thy neighbor and turns it on its head and says, you must hate your neighbor. And people will say, well, it's the Israelis' fault because they are military occupying parts of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And again, I think we need to look at the facts, because that isn't 100% true, because there have been many efforts on the part of world leadership that have tried to broker deals between Israel and the Palestinians. So, for example, the 1957 Peel Commission, the 1947 United Nations redistricting, the partitioning plan, the 1993 Oslo Accord, the 2000 Camp David Summit, and the 2008 dismantling of the West Bank Jewish settlements. Over 8,000 people were relocated out of the Gaza Strip. And yet that wasn't enough, and in fact, a lot of it was rejected. So what are we to make of this? Because again, people are going to want me to take sides, and they're probably thinking you are taking a side. No, I'm just looking at the facts faithfully. And the only side that I'm taking is pro-dignity of human life. Whichever side treats the other with dignity is the side that I'm going to follow. And I can say that what I've seen from Hamas as a terrorist organization, I will never take that side. And if there is true facts, and I know that there have been, the United Nations said that Israel was basically treating the Palestinians with such disregard, cutting electricity and water off to them, and there have been those accusations. I'd like to study that more, but I do know that no one is above treating or mistreating the other disrespectfully. So that certainly can be what's happening, but still nothing, no injustice gives anyone the permission to create the injustices that we are seeing in the light of day. So what can we do about this? Well, first of all, I think that if these people who are in war are people of faith, then they have to ask themselves who their God is, because their God should be teaching them to love their neighbor, to learn how to forgive, and to be more humble in how they approach the other. When I look at the Old Testament, the Jewish people were required to treat foreigners with dignity and respect, to make sure that, again, slaves were a part of the biblical times, that the slaves were treated with dignity, that we had to make sure that anyone who was oppressed, that there would be justice given to them. This is the side that I am on, making sure that we believe in a God who knows how to forgive, and that we are all seeking humility, because humble people, and I'm praying for more humble leaders, will be able to admit when they've done things wrong, ask for forgiveness, and make up for it. We also know that we've got to pay attention. We've got to pay better attention to not only the way we treat our neighbors, but how leaders are protecting their own people. Again, I'm surprised by all of the military might and the intelligence communities basically telling the Israelis that something was going to happen, that somehow when they're normally 10 steps ahead in protecting their people, they seemingly were completely caught off guard. It's shocking to me, but it makes me very, not scared, but I'm definitely concerned that our southern border is not protected. Knowing that this current administration said that they caught over 42 terrorists entering our countries, with the thousands of people coming in every day and millions coming in every year. We've got to pay better attention in how we treat our neighbors, but also how we're protecting our own people, and making sure that the protection of our people doesn't mean taking advantage of our neighbors, because then that just wouldn't be humble or responsive, a faithful person. I've kind of told my own family that we really have to just be careful of where we go these days, because the violence can happen anywhere, and we're seeing it happen. At this music festival in Israel, terrible things happened there where people were just having fun. But we know that right now in America, there are block parties that are ending in violence because of gang wars. We've got to pay very close attention, so to speak, to where we put ourselves, and are we putting ourselves in harm's way? And finally, I just think that we have to be very attentive with all of the surrounding news and chatter. Is it making me hate someone who I disagree with? Because that kind of is what's happening when Palestinians are cheering because families are being slaughtered. Where does this come from? I think it's coming from an indoctrination. We're being brainwashed to hate one another. And that's why Jesus' teachings are, I honestly think, the key to the world peace, because he talks about forgiveness. He talks about humility. But he also talks about how if we are oppressed, that we turn the other cheek, so to speak. We cannot let our victimhood give us permission to become vicious villains. No, because if we are victimized, humility teaches us how to be victorious over that oppressive injustice. And the final thing that I can just simply recommend for people is just to pray. Pray that we are prepared, because there's no guarantee that we're going to survive tomorrow. Gosh, the way some of these military forces, they have the power to destroy the world. There is no guarantee. I'm not asking you to be preppers. I am asking you to be prepared. Be prepared by not being afraid. This has been a very difficult conversation. And I'm sure that I'm probably going to get a lot of comments, and I welcome them, because I might not say things perfectly clearly, and you might have an opinion that I can learn from. But if I said something that you don't disagree with, please don't think it's because I hate you. And don't use that as an excuse to just automatically hate me. Because this is the stuff that, if it gets out of control, turns into violence and wars that will continue to last and escalate. Pope Francis and the Latin Patriarch, His Eminence Pier Baptista, they said the obvious, that war and terror is not a solution, but it will only breed more violence and hatred towards each other. Our job is to listen to Jesus. And I hope that this at least gives you a perspective. I am certainly keeping all of this in my prayer, and I hope you do the same. Please make sure you let family and friends know about this video, so share it. Please subscribe, and please keep us in your prayers and support us if you can. In the meantime, between now and the next time we talk and dish out faith, culture, and commentary, God bless you, and stay hungry for God.